So good morning. It is Wednesday, November 8th, 2023. I am Dr. Liz Cantu. I have the privilege of being the Center for Teaching and Learning Faculty Director. And I'm very excited to have Professor Steve Pice today doing a very important presentation focused on the Arizona retirement system. So Professor Pice, please take it away.
Good morning, Dr. Cantu, and thank you. My name is Steve Pice. I am currently the Interim Dean of Arts, Humanities, Cultural Sciences, and Social Sciences at Mesa Community College. And I formerly worked at Estrella as reading faculty and division chair of modern languages for several years. And I'm trying to give time for the interpreter. Also with me today is Wendy Tobin from our benefits department at Maricopa, and I'll let Wendy introduce herself.
Did Jim tell you about the retirement meeting at the CTL? Okay, you and Jim need to run up to the Center for Teaching and Learning. They got a retirement training going on, okay?
So we have someone who is not muted.
Tell Jim to come here.
Okay, I think I have found the person. I think we should be good to go to proceed.
Okay. So thank you, all of you, for joining us today. Your pension is a very important part of your pay and your compensation. I think it's really, really important for everyone to understand that when you get paid over a certain amount of time, we get paid a lesser amount because we've agreed to a safe retirement and a healthy retirement. And hence that is the reason for our pension here in the Arizona State retirement system. Thank you for going to the next slide, because if you've never logged into ASRS, and Dr. Cantu will also make this PowerPoint available to people so that they have these links. You can go to this particular site and log in for the first time. And Chris says she is not seeing the slide. Or
Second.
we can go back to a couple slides. That's fine. Oh, Phil sees it. Okay.
Okay. I was gonna say, I think we checked in the other room. Chris, are you able to see it? Maybe could you check to see if you've got your screen like widened? Sometimes.
Yeah, if you have it on full screen, you should be able to see it. If you have it on partial screen, you probably cannot. Okay. Let me think about this for a minute here.
I wonder if it's in the view options on the upper right-hand corner where it says view, you can toggle different views. I wonder if that might help.
Thank you, Wendy.
So maybe we just give a moment. I was gonna say, I don't think there's anything.
Oh, now Chris can see it.
Great, okay, just want to make sure.
Good news, good news. Thank you. Okay, so one of the things that I'm very passionate about, because I also work as a pension advocate, and we have had many people at work trying to tell us that, hey, wouldn't it be great if you didn't have this safe and secure pension and you could just have like a set of investments of 401k? My response to that is that a pension is a contract. You have already agreed to take a little bit lower compensation in a trade for having a safe retirement. If there are people that want to go to the casino, they should take their own money and not ours. So I want you to know that every time they talk about making our pensions less safe and less secure, I always contact my legislators to let them know we want to stay with a defined benefit program, and we want to keep it that way. So, at this time, I cannot hear anything in the room, so I don't know if the interpreter is ready for me to go on. So if someone can give me a signal, that'd be great.
So I believe, Steve, that we have them,
Ready.
okay. I was gonna
Thank
say,
you so much.
they are muted, just so that we can't hear them in the virtual.
Gotcha. I just wanted to make sure, so as long as someone can, give me the signal, that's great. So if we go to that link of azasrs.gov, this is the page that opens up. And if you've never seen this before, it's very important. If you get nothing out of today, other than I want to go to this site to see what I can do, that is going to make me very happy, because I want everyone to be a frequent user of this website. It is by far and away the best website for retirement of any place in the United States. You can do so many things on this website. So I am hoping, and the question in the chat is this site available in Spanish? There is a way to translate the site into Spanish. And I have not yet found that, but I did reach out. And Wendy, I will find that as well and get that information to you as well, okay? But that was my question as well. Thank you, Yvette. So I will tell you that if you've never logged in, you would want to go to where it says log in here. And if you have already logged in, you go to my ASRS login. And if you wanted to do that, you could. And you would enter your user ID, or you would go to first time registering, and you would put in, and you could just click on that, that'd be great. And this is what it's going to show you. It's going to ask you, and this absolutely translates into Spanish. Because I know for a fact, because I saw a document that was mirroring this, that was in Spanish. So, yes, Google Translate is also available, but actually the ASRS actually put out a Spanish document. So I will also send that in the resources. And of course, you would agree. I agree. And of course, you want to do it on a computer that is not shared if you can. If you do share it, make sure you clear the cache when you're done. So if we want to click on I agree, that'd be great. And you would put in your last name. Now, your social security number can also be your your employment identification number. Your EIN also works here. And yes, you have to put in your date of birth. And if you are new to your ASRS employer, sometimes they provide you with an enrollment code. If you have not been given an enrollment code, just hit continue and skip that spot.
And can I jump in real quick?
Please, Wendy.
If you've never registered your My ASRS account, I can actually provide that code to you. The reason why this is helpful is because it will send it to a page where I'll verify when you started contributing through Maricopa. And that helps the ASRS to make sure that your account is fully verified. If there's ever a question about when your membership began, that helps the ASRS. So you can register without doing the enrollment code, but it does help if you've never done it before to get the enrollment code. You can get it from me. You can actually get it from our benefits website, and I'll put a link into the chat for that. But again, that's something that they want you to do anytime you start a new employment or if you've never registered your account before.
Thank you, Wendy. That is so helpful. Because I have to tell you that with that code and making sure, it also helps us, I think, as Maricopa, keep a number of folks, hey, we have had these people log in. So now we know that there are many more people using the site. And Wendy, if I can just mention part of our conversation, when I met you at our benefits fair and I told you I was doing this and why I was doing it, I just saw your face just go down in a very sad way. And Wendy knows how important it is for all of us to have this knowledge. That's why I invited her today, because we're going to capture this workshop and we're going to make sure that all of our employees from all groups will have knowledge of their pension. This is our promise. Okay. And Dr. Cantu, if you want to go back to the PowerPoint, that'd be great. Okay. So if we go to the next slide. I copied and pasted this particular piece so that you know that ASRS will schedule virtual meetings with any member at any time to go over some general information on pension, and also go over if you think you're ready to retire but you're not sure yet. They have what they call getting ready to retire, and they also say retirement on the way, I think is the term. It's very, very important that when you visit that member education page that we saw earlier in the slides, if you click on it, you will see all of this information. And I think that, I don't know if they've started doing face-to-faces again, but they might. I have heard that that's been slow going because several people from ASRS, because they have a great retirement system, retired. So they haven't replaced everyone yet. And that has been a bit of a challenge, which is why a lot of the meetings are virtual. So, and remember, Wendy, if it's okay, you can reach out to Wendy Tobin at District, and she will point you in the direction. And Maricopa also does workshops for preparation for retirement. And thank you, Wendy, for your information. That's great. Okay. If we can go to the next slide. Thank you, thank you. So Route 3 and Route 4 they actually recorded a lot of these pieces, workshops to have online. So if you're thinking you're within a couple of years of retirement, or your retirement is imminent within the next 5 to 10 years, it's always good to see one of these, okay? And I think it's really, really important. I'm not going to access the videos today or show you any of that because I want you to do that on your own time. But as soon as you get used to going through the workshop and going through the website, you'll be able to see that these videos provide very, very valuable content and important information about how your retirement is calculated, which we will get to, I promise, and why it's important to keep consulting the website to make sure if there's any changes, you know why, you know how much, because it could impact when you choose to retire. At this time, if there's any questions in either chat or questions from the live audience, I am happy to take them.
So I don't see any questions in the chat right now, Steve. Wendy's been great at putting some links.
You've been amazing.
But maybe turn it over. Any questions from anybody in the virtual space or in the in-person space? Gabby, any questions on your side?
Is this being recorded? Yes, okay, thank you.
So the one question was, is this being recorded? And it is. We can make it available afterwards. Looks like there's nothing yet, Steve.
Okay, sounds good. And again, for those of you who are going to be watching the recording, I do have a face for radio. I apologize for that. I don't know what to type. So if we can go to the next slide, that'd be great. So you're going to hear a lot of people say points when they talk about their pension. And a lot of people consider 80 points to be quote unquote full retirement. Partially the answer to that is yes. It is usually considered to be what I call the tipping point for people that wish to retire and want to do so with a certain amount. But it is not the maximum if you wanted to stay longer. So let's say that, and how that is calculated is your years of service to the retirement system, in this case, Maricopa, plus your age. Now, I'm not going to ask anyone's age. I'm just going to hypothetically say, let's say I have 30 years of experience and I am 55 years old. I add my age, 55, plus the years of experience, 30, and that gets me to 85 points. I may not wish to retire because at 55, I'm still feeling quite spry and young enough to keep working, and I love my job, and that's great. And my pension will still grow. You should also know that medical benefits will be a consideration in how you choose to retire and when. If you are 65 and you are Medicare eligible, that usually is a tipping point for a lot of people. And some people choose to, in fact, retire later because they're just happy in their jobs and they stay. And it's rare, but some people stay so long that it no longer adds to your pension. You've gotten what you can get out of it. You max out, and then that's when a lot of people also retire. So if we click on that link, Dr. Cantu, thank you so much. If you look down where it says wage replacement rates. Perfect. Whoop, we just went past it. It's okay. It is right there on the right-hand column. Perfect. You will see that they have a graded multiplier. Thank you, thank you. Dr. Cantu knows my eyes are more senior than I am right now. So thank you for that. You can put in, like, let's say you're 60 and you put in 5 years of service, you could still get a retirement at 65 with the multiplier 2.1% times your years of service, and that gets you a 10.5% pension. And as you see going down, if I'm going to pay special attention to where it says 20 years of service, you'll see that the multiplier goes up. That's okay. Goes up, and then your salary, if you retire after 20 years of service, is 43% of your final average salary, which I'm not going to get into yet, everybody, because there's a lot of variables. So, and we'll talk about that, but a lot of people with years of service max out at 32 years. If you put 32 years into the retirement system, the multiplier is 2.3%, and that gets you almost to 75%. That's 73.6%. That's almost 3/4 of your final average salary. And Dr. Cantu, if you want to go to the graded multiplier section, because that's kind of where the arrow went, that is how that is computed right there. Okay. So if you have up to 20 years of service, your multiplier is going to be 2.1%. If you have 20 to 25 years of service, 2024.99, it's 2.15. 25 to 29.99 is 2.20. And when you hit 30 years of service, that goes to 2.30%. Now, it doesn't seem like it's a big difference, but actually over time it is. Because if you decide to stay, let's say you retire at 19 years of service, your multiplier is always going to be 2.1. If you stay the extra 11 years, that actually can mean several $1,000s annually that you can add to your pension. And I'm gonna pause for a moment.
And
I'll-
also,
Go ahead.
I also want to just add one little thing on the previous slide when we were talking about points. Because 80 points is one way to reach full retirement, but it doesn't apply if your membership started in ASRS after July of 2011.
You're right, and I'm getting to that later. I promise.
Okay.
I promise.
Sorry, jumped the gun.
My wife started in November of 2011, and she's a little bitter.
Yeah. Understood.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a whole other conversation. But I'm just going with points for now, and then I'll go to where there's not points, because that translates straight into years, and then that formula still applies. But yeah, it's just a little different. So Dr. Cantu, if we can go back to that other slide.
Can I ask a question, Steve?
You absolutely can.
I know that we had a dear colleague who retired a couple years ago, and she was sharing with me the ability for you to buy points.
So we call that service buyback, and that depends. So there are 4 conditions to do that. The first condition is if you have service at another public pension municipality, like I had 17 years from New York. And I worked as a New York City teacher. That's why I have all the gray hair. For 17 years, I elected not to buy that service and put it all into one pension. And let me explain my decision on that. The price was exorbitant, number one. And number two, I'm just real comfortable having 2 pensions as opposed to putting it all into one, because I think I can take my New York State pension at 62 and it's still a full benefit. And that's why I decided to keep it here. I can't do that if I move it into ASRS. So it gave me some flexibility. So that's one possibility. 2, if you served in the military for several years, that is considered acceptable public service to buy back, or other public service. 3, there is a provision where if you worked as a teacher or sector worker in a private school in the state of Arizona, the state of Arizona will take that as well. And I'm trying to remember what the 4th option is, the 4th scenario. I believe the 4th scenario is if you had service that you contributed to your pension, but you never took that money out, and it's kind of floating around in an account somewhere, you can transfer that service, but there is a price to that too. Wendy, have I left anything out?
One. Yeah, so one way is if you have time that's at least 1 month, but not more than 12 months of an approved leave of absence, you can purchase that time back. And I think what the last one you were talking about might be forfeited service. So that's if you participated in ASRS, you left participation, you pulled your money out, and now you're back in ASRS and you want to reinstate that service credit. You can do that. You're basically paying back the amount you took out plus a little bit of interest. So that is probably the only method of service purchase that is affordable for most people, because it's calculated, the cost is calculated very simply, the other types are calculated on an actuarial present value basis. So that's why it's so expensive to purchase service credit.
And just maybe for everybody to understand, this is done if you would like to maybe advance here, right? Let's say you're at 30. And is that when you would do that? Like, you kind of want to go up a little bit, so if you have any of those scenarios that you mentioned, you could potentially get to 32 without having to stay 2 years. Is that how I understand the way that?
Basically, yeah, when someone is purchasing service, it's usually either because they want to reach normal retirement sooner, or they want to increase their pension. And usually that's because they're maybe getting close to the next graded multiplier, but they don't want to stay as long as it would take to reach that next graded multiplier. If they purchase some service that could get them there faster. If you've got 32 years, or there's not a magic, 32 isn't a magic number because you max out your graded multiplier at 30 years. But any additional years of service you have, even though it won't be multiplied more, it still adds to your pension, because your pension is based on 3 things and 2 of them are dependent on how much service credit you have.
Thank you, Wendy.
I just wanted to acknowledge Chris's comment in the chat saying worked part-time, no retirement was taken at that time. They were allowed to buy that time, but that was a while ago.
Right, if it's any time that you worked for any public United States employer, so local, state, federal, any of that, and you don't have a retirement benefit that you're going to receive for that time, like Steve was talking about in New York, he would have had to forfeit his 17-year pension from his system in New York in order to buy that time in ASRS. So if you have time like that, and you either forfeited that retirement benefit or you didn't have a retirement for that time that you worked, then you could purchase it as eligible service in ASRS.
And just another scenario that came to my head, I know someone worked for the county court system, doing general maintenance. And one day they just asked at a meeting, I worked for the courts for 12 years, and absolutely that was usable service. And it really augmented the person's pension. So, and, if you do interpreting for the courts, that is also purchasable service. You just never think about it, because I guess one of the things I always tell people is keep like a job history, whether it's a resume or something less formal, so that you say, I wonder if I ever had any pension taken out, if this is viable service. I always keep a catalog of things I've done in both in the public sector, so that if I did want to buy it back, I had the option. Okay. Are there any questions in the room, or any, I think questions in chat, I think we're good, but just in case anyone had a question. And I am going to get to the years piece and how that works in a matter of moments. So mathematically, it doesn't really affect people the way they think it does. Because a lot of people who have the points think, haha, I'm so glad that they're doing the points because I'm going to get more in my pension. It's pretty negligible, actually. The reason why the years work is because the formula remains the same. The formula is ostensibly the same. You're multiplying by a number of years through the multiplier, and that gives you what we call your final average salary, which can be somewhere in the neighborhood of 66 to 70 some odd percent. And it's still the same. You're not losing something in your pension because they started calculating it differently in 2011. I keep telling that to my wife. She still doesn't believe me. So, but it's funny how people see that. I'm comfortable with the points because I started in the pension system here in 2005. So that's what I know. That's what I've always looked at. And just in case you're wondering, my membership in ASRS, the day I logged on for the first time to the website was in 2006. Because as soon as I heard the word pension, and I heard they had a website where you could actually look at your numbers, because in New York, you can't do that. In New York, there's no website that gives you this information. You have to have a pension consultation with a pension consultant face to face in order to have this information shared with you. I'll talk about that another time in another place. I think that's kind of terrible, but I guess it's job security for a lot of people that work for us in New York, I guess. I don't know. Okay.
And honestly, the version of the ASRS website member portal that we have today is a lot different than it looked back then in 2006. We didn't have anything close to this until 2010 was when they revamped it. So maybe New York has something else by now. Who knows?
Oh, no, I can guarantee you they don't.
All right, I was trying to give them the benefit of the
I
doubt.
know, but I keep, a friend of mine's a pension consultant. I'm like, yeah, great job security, John, thanks. But what can I tell you? All right, Dr. Cantu, if we can go to the next slide. So I want to thank, Wendy, that very nice gentleman that you referred me to.
Michael Moreno.
Michael Moreno sent me this particular set of slides so that people could see what it looks like when you log in for the first time. Because I'll be honest with you, I was not really enthusiastic about sharing my own information. So you log in and you have, if you look at the left side, you have a bunch of options, your benefit estimates, and right there you can click on retirement and it will give you, that's a dead slide. It's not going to go right to the link. I'm going to go to, if you go to the next slide, it'll do it. It will give you three options. Age 65, which is the Medicare, when you're eligible for Medicare. You have early retirement, which is the day that you log in for that. And it gives you that option. Or your, what they call your normal retirement, which is, oh, that's more than 80 points right there. But your normal retirement, which is where your pension, in my case, they show me my 80 point stay, which is coming up on me sooner than I thought it would. How's that? Let me say that. And that's what they're going to show you. It'll show you your age at your retirement, how much service you have, your monthly benefit and your annual benefit based on the compensation you were receiving monthly. So that gives you a really accurate picture. And again, it's not 100% exact, but it is a pretty good approximation. I know some people where it's like, wow, mine was actually a little bit more when I did my pension and what have you. So this is why this website is so amazing, because there's no other website that I know of that will do this benefit estimate for you. This is the one. Wendy, if they do it in Oregon, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, and this, static screenshot, if you really look at it, you'll be able to tell that this is someone who is quite young, and only at this time it says 8.33 years of service. So everyone's estimator page is going to look a little different depending on your circumstances. So like you might have someone who is further along in their career might not have as many options here. And you can see also because his first normal retirement is at age 59 with 30 years of service. That's because the points don't apply to him because his membership date would be after the July 2011. So yeah, it'll be different depending on your individual circumstances. But what's great is you can play with these numbers, and especially with the button at the bottom of the columns.
And can I just ask, your last contribution, is that basically your paycheck, what you got paid for that biweekly time frame? Or is it not each paycheck?
So this screenshot says last contribution posted date was April 15th of 2022. So this screenshot was created probably in May of 2022.
Right.
So that should show you the most, you know, give or take several weeks, because it takes time for them to post the contributions after your paycheck.
Got it. There's some chat in the in-person space, but I think it's people just calculating stuff or looking at different numbers. Any questions for the presenters? All right, looks like, yeah, they're just kind of chatting, looking at the different scenarios.
And Dr. Cantu, that's exactly what I want. I want people to start talking about their pension. Because the fact that, and this is what, and this is what, you know, made Wendy a little sad as well. I had so many people come to me one-to-one, and I'm always happy to meet with people that want to talk pension, because it's one of my things. I am an advocate. I have lobbied the legislature and will continue to do so. But I also want people to know what this is, because I don't know how many faculty members I've known and how many people in different roles in the college are like, yeah, I don't know much about my pension. I've never signed in. And I'm like, this is something you should be the expert on your own pension. Always. Because the ultimate decision about when you retire is going to be yours. It's not going to be anyone else's. And I want people to make informed, empowered decisions. And I am going to talk about some factors that come in. I haven't talked about Social Security. I haven't talked about Medicare except in a roundabout way. That also will contribute to when you're ready to retire as well. Because if you combine your pension with your Social Security, you might be have a very comfortable retirement, you know, provided they don't steal our Social Security. That's a whole other conversation, what have you. But I will tell you that a lot of people didn't even think about, oh, wait, I get Social Security too? And I'm like, sure. Just because you have a pension doesn't mean you forfeit your Social Security. Okay? But that's a whole other conversation as well. And I just want people to make empowered, informed decisions, because knowledge is always power. And I have to tell you, the reason why I'm doing this today is because everyone at our colleges, I don't care if you work if you're the president of the college, or if you're the person that is working part-time, cleaning up the conference center or whatever, everyone matters, everyone is important. Your Social Security, your financial security, that is a concern of ours. We don't want anyone feeling that they're not important and that they don't deserve to know about their retirement. That is ridiculous. We want to make sure that everyone feels welcomed and feels like they can make the informed decision. Because people always ask me for advice, and I always say I don't give advice. I give you options. The decision is always going to be yours. I just want you to see the full picture of what you would be able to retire with. And then you weigh that against your expenses and what have you. I know a lot of people who actually did better financially after they retired. Because they didn't calculate, oh, commuting costs, gas, whatever. They didn't calculate a lot of that. And then you look at that and you go, oh, maybe it is the right time. Anyway, so if there are no questions from either the virtual, the in face-to-face room or the virtual room, Dr. Cantu, if we can go to the next slide. So here are some more options. This actually is new, and I really like this. So if you're looking at different other different options, and this is your service credit, this is for the years people, correct, Wendy? Mine
So
pops
this,
up differently than this.
yeah, it might be a little bit different based on that, yeah.
Yeah, but it's great. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think this is a great look. Because I've seen my wife look at this look and she's like, oh, and because this really breaks it down for you. And I think that's fantastic. And if you look at the left side menu, you even have the ability to apply now for service purchase. You can look at your survivor benefit. Yes, I always tell people I'm still worth more dead than alive. That's a whole other conversation. It's a whole other conversation. I always keep telling my wife the insurance money may not be that good. And she goes, no, I saw the survivor benefit, you know, it's pretty good. So if something should happen to me, you know what happened, okay? But I would also tell you, and yes, I'm kidding, please, for those of you who don't know me, I am just kidding. But there's also those member videos on communication and education. And if you do have like a warning piece that they need, you know, like, oh, you need to look at this or whatever, you get a message from ASRS. It could, usually they're telling you when they're closed for holidays, but there's other important information. Like I got one because I used to log in literally every week and I took 3 or 4 weeks off and they were like, you okay? I kid you not, I actually got that message. Hey Steve, you haven't logged in a while, you all right? And I had to laugh. I thought it was really funny. I'm like, really, I'm fine. Thank you for your concern. Note to self, make sure I send ASRS a card if I go on vacation so they know I'm not dead and what have you. But yeah, they really do. There's a lot of support here. Now, there's a piece on working after retirement. That is always an individual decision that I think people make, and I get that. I understand that. You don't have to, but some people like to do so. I know if you're faculty, you might want to work as an adjunct in your retirement and teach a little bit, and that's fine. There's a certain amount that you can't go over, and that is absolutely discussed with you in that option. There's a lot of specific information, but always consult a financial planner that you trust or someone from the pension system who can give you an answer about sorry about that, how much work you can do when you retire.
Can I ask,
And actually,
oh, go ahead, Wendy.
I think you might be about to ask the question. You were pointing your cursor towards the working after retirement link, which of course this is a static slide.
Yeah.
So you can't click there, but anyone, even if you're not retired yet, you can click on working after retirement there in your account. And it will say, you know, when are you going to retire? Are you going to terminate employment? When are you going to come back to work? Are you going to be working, you know, 20 or more weeks? Are you going to be working 20 more hours? Yes or no for both of those. And then you click evaluate and it'll show you, okay, based on your account, your information, either you can work these terms and continue to receive your pension, or you cannot continue to receive your pension and work with these factors. And then, you know, before you retired, it's not going to let you go any further because it's like an estimator tool. But once you're retired, that piece will move down in the menu to under apply now. It'll be working after retirement there. And at that point, when you're retired and actually returning to work, you'll want to fill that out and submit it. And then I'll be the one that sees those and can verify in HCM, yep, this person's returning for these terms and submit it to ASRS.
Thank you.
And yeah, and I'm happy to answer any questions about working after retirement too. That was one of my areas of expertise when I was at ASRS.
And just in case, just to understand the survivor benefit, I believe that I designate the survivors when I do my benefits. Is that correct?
So when you have a beneficiary set up in your ASRS account, that's going to be totally separate from all your other benefits and other beneficiary designations that you do at Maricopa. With your survivor benefit before retirement, anytime, as long as you have not applied for retirement yet, that is when those beneficiary designations would come into place if you passed away before retirement. So you can set up multiple primary and secondary beneficiaries before retirement. You can use an estate, a trust, an organization as a beneficiary. But once you retire, when you're in the process of applying for retirement, you're going to select an annuity option at that time. And your beneficiary designation is going to be based on what you can do under that annuity option. So it'll be different when at retirement, but you'll select that when you retire. So before retirement, yes, absolutely go into your My
Right.
ASRS account, set up those beneficiaries, because none of us know when, right?
That said, kind of a funny but terrible story. If for heaven's sake you have a change in family status and a change of spouse, you definitely want to make that change in your beneficiary. We had several times in New York when people didn't do that. And the person they were married to at the time didn't get the benefit. It went to the divorced spouse. That was a little awkward. So you definitely want to keep an eye on that. And Dr. Cantu, in my case, I have my wife set up as my primary and my kids set up as secondary. So if something should happen to both of us, it's set up that way.
Thank you, Steve. I was just asking because I think when we do our benefits, maybe it's because I have some like short-term disability and accidental, that type of stuff in when I do open enrollment. But I now understand that I actually have to go in here and set that up, not
That is
necessarily.
correct.
It's
That
not.
is correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yeah, because what you're doing for Maricopa and ASRS are two very different entities. So that's how I remember to do it. So thank you for that. That's a great question. Can we go to the next slide?
What kind of contributions are they getting? Are they just getting like what we paid into, or are they getting?
Yeah, so we have a great question. I don't know if you could hear.
I heard part of it, but if you can repeat it, that'd be great.
The question was, so what do survivors get? What, like, how do we understand, should that happen? I know you were mentioning, Steve, you know, you and your wife looking at stuff. How does that get calculated as part of the website and the work that you do to understand what the survivor benefit would be? They wanted to know, what do survivors get?
So the answer to that is depends. If you can go to the next slide, because I can speak to it a little bit better in the next slide. So the survivor benefit that I do has a specific amount right now that if I should happen to die in service, this is what the person would get. Okay. I am not comfortable sharing my own specific amount. So I would tell you that when you do the options, percentage to joint survivor could be 100%, 6 2/3, 50%. It's whoops, there's the cat. What have you. But there is an amount that's listed on mine that says exactly what they would get at the moment of when I log in. So I think the last time I checked, it ends up being in a lump sum, because they can choose to take it in payments, monthly benefit, or they can take it in a lump sum. I think the lump sum in my case, because I have, well, we're now on almost 20 years of service for me. We're about 18, 19 years of service. I think is somewhere in the neighborhood of 300,000, but I'm not entirely sure. But that amount would be listed when you log in and you go for when you go for survivor benefit under your benefit estimates. Wendy, what did you want to add?
Yes, so under your benefit estimates, survivor benefit, that's going to show you the non-retired survivor benefit. So if you pass away before retirement, like Steve said, what generally the survivor benefit before retirement is all of the money that you've paid in. So all of your contributions all of the 100% matching employer contributions plus interest. That's generally what the survivor benefit is. So it's everything you've ever paid in and everything that's been matched for you plus interest. So if it's a high enough balance, then your survivor may have the option of taking it as a monthly annuity, like Steve mentioned. What's on the screen here, this is going to be totally different and calculated differently because these are for the annuity options at retirement, where the survivor benefit isn't just the lump sum of everything you've paid in. It's calculated much differently. So when you go here and you click on this retirement options tab and you put in there, so for example, if I want to see what it would be, what my retirement estimate would be, if I selected, a joint and survivor option, let's say I put, 100%, my spouse, put his beneficiary date of birth there. Is the beneficiary also your spouse? Yes. And then calculate benefit estimate below, then it would show you, okay, like if I chose that option with this beneficiary at that age, here's what my monthly retirement estimate looks like. And also if I pass away and my beneficiary is still living, then the 100%, that's what he would receive for the rest of his life. So the survivor benefits look different for retired and not retired yet.
Thank you, Wendy, for that clarification. That was a great question. Thank you for the question. Other questions?
Don't see anything in the chat, and I don't have anything in this side of the room. Maybe I'll ask another because it's burning in my brain. Is the beneficiary always a person? I know sometimes when I listen to National Public Radio, it says if you would like to have NPR listed on your will or trust. But I believe that in this case, it is a person, not necessarily an organization or entity that you can give your benefits to. Is that correct?
Before retirement, you can elect a trust or an organization as a beneficiary because that survivor benefit is this lump sum. But as an annuity option, you could not select an organization or a trust or anything as your beneficiary because these are joint and survivor options or term certain options, but it's where joint and survivor says, here's what I get in retirement, and then if I pass away, here's what my survivor gets in their benefit, but it's lifelong for me, and then it'll be lifelong for them. So an organization doesn't have a life. That's why they couldn't let you select an organization, because it would run out of money because they'd be paying it forever.
Yeah, we can't pay this all in perpetuity, I would imagine. So yeah. Although it is very interesting to hear how many people endow survivor benefits to American Cancer Society. They seem to be number one. They get a lot of those. So but it has to be done before. Yes, agreed. So thank you. Okay. So we can go to the next slide and let's start answering the real question is, when should I retire? And yes, I actually sent this. We had someone retire from the library. I decided this would be a very appropriate retirement photo for someone retiring from the library. And the answer becomes, depends. And if we can go to the next slide. I'm going to teach you what my mantra is, and it's called the MHQ, which stands for Mental Health Quotient. I want to tell you that I've seen too many people try to hang on because they just want a little more money. And I've seen them become ill. And I've seen them become upset and not enjoying their lives. Why would you do that? I believe that if you're at a point where you can be financially comfortable and you have decided my time doing this is no longer, I don't want to do it anymore, then by all means, you can retire. But if you're still having fun, you're still enjoying what you do, you feel great or good, I'll even settle for feeling good, then stay. Stay a while, stay for as long as you decided, yeah, I'm kind of done doing this now and whatever. And then you can decide. But I'm never going to tell someone you should retire now because I am never going to utter that sentence to anybody. Because I'll be honest with you, I think it's an individual decision. I have people ask me all the time, well, when are you going to retire? I'm like, I don't feel like the retiring type sometimes. And then, I've had some recent events where I've said, maybe working until 75 is not what I want to do. And I think I want to travel and see a little more of the world, perhaps, and not have to have that hustle of rush hour, both, going to work and coming home. So it changes, and that's okay. But I believe the mental health quotient, your mental health, is a very, very significant, important factor. If you're feeling great about things, stay. If you're not, and you're not feeling well, I would say, look at the factors that brought you there. I mean, if we're talking a matter of weeks or a couple of months, I mean, that's up to you. But I've seen people say, well, I need to stay 5 more years. And I said, well, are you up for that? And they're like, I don't know. I said, well, okay. I mean, but do what's best for you and your family. It is an individual decision. It is not for someone else to tell you. I see too many people that are quote unquote financial advisors telling people when to retire, and I think that's fraudulent. I don't think they should give you options and not that type of advice. I believe in giving people options. Make the decision, whatever you think is best for you, what's best for your family. That's what's really, really important. And I hope that you keep that in the back of your mind as you look at your pension, you contemplate retirement, and you decide, and you're never too young to know what your pension is, and you're never too old to think about when I can stay and how important that is. It's an individual decision. It's up to you. I would love to hear some questions and love to hear some conversation from people about how they feel about that.
There were some chuckles about not any questions yet or at the moment.
I'm very passionate about pension for a lot of reasons. I've seen too many people work, unfortunately, in the private sector where they didn't get a retirement benefit after putting in many, many years. And I don't want that for any of us. I want us to be comfortable because I see the pension as a contract. We all in this room, all of us, including college presidents and vice presidents, agreed to take a lower compensation to work in the public sector in exchange for a safe and secure retirement. That's why when someone says, oh, but wouldn't you like to, invest that in the stock market? You know what I tell them? You want to go to the casino? You go. You take your own money. I'm keeping mine. Thank you very much. I'm not in the mood to gamble with my pension. Thank you. So any questions, comments, concerns?
If we had more questions later, can we email you?
Of course, for goodness sake.
What is your email?
So I'm going to put that in the chat. My Estrella one still works, believe it or not. But you can also get me here.
Any questions from the virtual attendees? Either unmute and share or put in the chat, or if not, looks like Steve is also providing his contact information. And again, Steve, right, there is also, so there are all of Steve's emails. And we can follow up today's meeting with some of these links and obviously the recording once that's available. But just wanted to thank you and Wendy at the moment. But I was gonna say, besides you, you also said that you can sign up for those virtual consultations, right? With the system, right? With someone in the Arizona retirement system.
Absolutely. And remember that, you know, they are understaffed right now. Because, you know, part of the gift of having a great retirement system is a bunch of our folks said, thanks, we're retiring. And it happens that way, right? But they have all the people, we've actually had ASRS people come out to campus in the past, and they've been phenomenal. Oh, thank you for that, Wendy, and thank you for that phone number as well. I also am gonna meet with Wendy and Dr. Cantu to talk about if we wanted to do follow-ups, what might they look like? And I'm hoping that every college will have some sort of session like this. It doesn't have to be me, but I would happily serve if needed, but I think I really believe everyone should know about their pension and be an expert in their pension. And if they have questions, there are resources out there. I gotta tell you, I want to give kudos to Wendy, because when I met her at the benefits thing, she not only was welcoming and supportive, but if I can quote you, Wendy, she said, it puts a hole in my heart to know that there are people that don't know about their pension and benefits. And I believe her. I think she was sincere and is sincere. And I have to tell you that we changed Maricopa by doing stuff like this. Because Maricopa is a great organization. And if there's a need, if we alert people, we get things like this done, and we do it often and make it routine. So I want to thank Dr. Cantu, whose leadership at the CTL. She is the gold standard for CTL. And God, I miss all of you over there, I have to tell you. And don't get me wrong, I'm having a great time here. They've been wonderful to me, but I really miss all of you. So if there are questions, comments, concerns, I'm happy to take them.
¿Hay alguna pregunta, inquietud o comentario? Los puedo tomar. This is a Spanish interpreter. There is this, a question
Please.
from one of our Spanish speakers. So if I don't have my points, will I have a penalty? If
So,
I am able to complete them, is there going to be taxes?
so the answer to that is it depends, and it also depends on the timing. I would say there's two things at work here. And let me let you get clarity, because maybe I'm misunderstanding the question.
Give me 1 second. Let me ask her to ask the question again. Haga su pregunta. If I retire when I have 80 to 82 points, and I would like to take all the money out, will I have a penalty?
So that's a good question. My understanding is probably not, but I don't know. Because being paid in a lump sum is complicated, because it depends on your age. It also depends on if you have a hardship where you have to have that money for like medical treatment or refinancing a house in some cases. I believe there is tax relief for that.
But that would be only taxes, no penalties?
There is no penalty if you are of retirement age, and we're just going to say that if you would have to be younger than 50 for there to be a penalty.
So I'm a little confused by that one.
Okay, I will be in my 60s.
Yeah, you're fine. I think you should be fine. And Wendy, I think I can explain this one, Wendy. When people take lump sum of pensions, and this happens more in New York than it does here. They tell you that you're subject to 20% withholding unless you need it for medical treatment, or there was some sort of calamity where you needed to refinance your house for serious repairs and what have you. There's more exceptions than that, but those are the two that came to my head.
I don't think that the ASRS has those provisions at retirement. If you want to take your retirement in a lump sum, you don't get to choose that. It's if your retirement calculation is under $100 a month, then the ASRS will automatically calculate a lump sum of your entire pension and pay that in one payment. So it's not something you can opt. You can choose a partial lump sum at retirement, but that's not everything. That's up to 36 months worth.
All right, Wendy, we'll talk, we'll loop back on this one, but there is an emergency provision that I did read about, and I'll show that to you.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to
That's
know
what
more
she's
about that.
talking about. I don't think she's talking about normal retirement per se. Yeah, that's what I get what she's asking. Because I
Okay.
know her. That's why. So, but I'll explain it to you. There's a lot of context I can't give you right now, but
Right.
I promise you, her question's legit, and the
We'll
answer
debrief.
is, if it's the emergency provision, she's fine.
Okay.
And it only affects you if you're under 60. If you're over 60, you're usually good. Does that work?
Any other questions? Seems like we're processing all this great information. Perhaps we appreciate you all sharing contact information and places where we can get more information. And I would love to have a follow-up, maybe after a few months after people have had a chance to digest and explore. Maybe we do a session 2 of this to help us to continue the dialogue, discussion, and the learning together.
I see a hand.
Suggestion for that,
Oh, there is a suggestion.
if we could have computers in here to where we could log into our and see that and do that at the same time, I think that would be a lot more beneficial.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, we actually have computers right here that we could have had available to you. So thank you. We will do that next time.
Thank you so much for that. It's a great suggestion. I just want to say y'all look great. Not only do y'all make the college look great, but you all look fantastic. I see I'm the only one who's aged in this room here. So thanks for that. I hope everyone's doing well. Y'all look great.
Well, with that, I think I'm going to stop the recording for today. Thank you again, and looking forward to the next opportunity to collaborate on this.